Hi everyone! My boyfriend recently surprised me with this set of markers, or pens, or brush pens, I guess. I looked them up. They've been around for years at this point, but they were new to me. I've never actually heard of them or seen them, but I think they're like really cool. So I'm of course not acting like a professional, and I have played around with these pens a little before. So here you can kind of get an idea of what the colors look like, and here's a picture that I made with them, as well as playing around a little more. But let's start all over again on a blank page. So these are Kuretake ZIG Clean Color Real Brush in Pale Colors 1. I'm not sure if it says anyone on the packaging, but these are basically watercolor pens. And I'm sure to a lot of people, there's nothing fancy about them, but they feel very fancy to me because I've never had pens like these before. So what really surprised me is the fact that they actually have a brush tip. They don't just have like plastic that mimics the shape of a brush. I really hope this picks up on camera, but these are actual brush bristles. You see how it like widens up, and this was so cool to me because I've never used pens like these before. Like, I've seen them around, I kind of knew they existed, but I don't know, actually using them was like a whole nother experience. I have been wanting to try out pens like this for quite a while, but kind of pricey. Like, even the cheap ones are a little more on the pricey side. But now that I have them, I'm actually really happy. I also really like the pen itself. Like, it's a plastic barrel, but it feels nice in my hand. It also feels a little more high quality, and since they are basically watercolor brush pens, the ink flow in these pens is also very similar to using watercolors, but it's like they're always at full saturation and never dry unless you do this. If you do these really quick sideways strokes, you do kind of get the dry texture. And as someone who loves bright and saturated colors, this is amazing. This is like watercolors, but I never have to like re-dip or clean up my brush. It's not the exact same, but it's similar enough. Anyway, let me just re-swatch them real quick for you. Also, as much as I've been raving right now, I'm not very good at using brushes, so do bear with me while I'm trying my best to make these pens look as aesthetic as I can. So these are the colors. I think they're very pretty, and what you may or may not have noticed in the video just now, surprisingly they actually get darker as they dry instead of getting lighter. Also, I think you can nicely layer the colors over themselves to create a darker shade. I do say layer nicely, but that kind of depends on how you're going to use these pens or how you want to use these pens, because I do see this being annoying to some people. Also, the more you layer them, the more they bring out the texture of the paper. And right now, I'm just drawing in my sketchbook, and my sketchbook is definitely not watercolor paper. The paper is super smooth, but fairly thick. And it does take pretty well to wet mediums, in my opinion. But it also dries up everything really fast. Then, the next fun thing that you can do with these markers, really easily, is blend them. I almost never blend my colors because I think it's really tedious. That's it, it's very tedious, but look at how easy it is to blend these colors. And with these pens, the pigment in these pens reactivates so nicely. All of this red marker that I smudged on here earlier, it's fully dry, but if I go over it with like another pen, look at that. Look at how well it's like lifting up the pigment and merging it again using this like light orange or yellow, whatever you want to call it. And look at that, we got a little gradient from the red into the yellow. Also, if you want to, you can also reactivate the colors using just nice plain water. And technically you can do more than just gradients. You can also kind of use it as a palette if you really wanted to, you know, just use your little swatches or smudges, and then you mix it with water and you can create some lighter shades. Technically, another thing that you can do, which I don't really want to do because I am scared that it's gonna ruin the pens, but if you wanted to, you could do the chameleon marker thing and just have the tips touch a little bit, mix the ink flow. Let's see if that's enough. And then that's another way to create gradients. Again, it's possible, but they are more on the pricey side in my opinion. I don't want to risk it. I've only like blended colors that are really similar, but you can of course also blend colors that have a much higher contrast. But just like with any art supply, there is always a bit of a limit of how nicely the gradient is gonna turn out. Oh, and just like with those water brush pens, if the tip gets dirty, just smudge it a little somewhere and it'll be good. Like, let me just pick up some of the red pigment again. And then, see, it's all nice and clean again. One of the downsides though, just because they are not the same as traditional watercolors, even though it is easy to blend with them, they do still layer like your average felt tip marker. So it's also very easy to just end up with kind of like darker areas in the middle where you are blending the colors. And now that I've told you about how much I love these brush marker pens, I think it's time we draw something fun with them. I've been really in the mood to draw humanoid characters, but I feel like just straight up animals would probably be the better way to showcase these pens. And I decided I'm gonna draw some bunnies. I haven't drawn bunnies in like a really long time. There's so much noise going on today. Okay, the bunnies are roughly sketched, so next we're going to accessorize them a little bit. What is happening? There's no reason anyone should be honking their horn like that. Alright, so all my bunnies are nicely dressed up and cleaned up. And since I have 6 bunnies and 6 pens, I'm thinking about dedicating 1 pen to each one of the bunnies as their main fur color. But before I decide what color is going to correspond to what bunny, I'm actually going to use these little filler flowers as my swatches. Maybe it would make more sense if I color in their accessories first and then decide what fur color would look good with the accessories. Also, I just noticed I dressed up 2 bunnies with plants that are very reliant on green, and I obviously don't have a green in my color palette, so this one's going to be a little tricky to figure out. Definitely say that bunnies are like some of my favorite animals, and I'd love to own some, but unfortunately for me, I'm not just allergic to bunnies, but I'm also very strongly allergic to hay and any sort of pollen. So if it were just the bunny itself, perhaps I would be able to survive, but seeing as it's the bunny and the majority of their diet, I don't think and their habitat, I don't think that me owning bunnies would be a good idea. I complain a lot about how so many art supplies come in sets that only consist of the basic rainbow colors. And while I love rainbows and it's nice to have every basic color, it does get boring if all your markers, all your color pencils, all your crayons are always the same shades and colors. And my sweet little boyfriend, of course, remembered that I complain about this a lot. So he actually picked out a set of colors that he knew that I don't have, which was very, very smart, very, very loving of him, because he made a very good choice. I am truly trying to be patient and slow and careful, but even this bunny is already kind of too large and it makes it hard to get a smooth lay of the colors. Also, it takes kind of forever to color in. I basically get a very similar experience to using watercolors without all the like mess and the setup and the cleaning afterwards. And I think as long as I keep what I'm drawing fairly small, there's also no issues with like the scratchiness and stuff or my lack of patience. So I think that kind of makes up for it. So if you're like me, then I would absolutely suggest you look into getting one of these sets. Again, personally, I think they're quite pricey, but they feel like very, very nice quality. My boyfriend spent 16 euro on this set of 6, and the cheapest I saw them online was 15 euros on Amazon, so the price checks out. I'm curious to see how long they last because I see myself using them a lot. Also, when I looked them up, it looks like there are over 100 different color sets you can buy, but you should definitely stick to a small set first. Try them out for a while, see if you like them before you invest into the really big set, because that is a mistake that I've made too many times in my life. Anyway, that's the end of my video. If you enjoyed it, please consider to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week for a new video. Goodbye!